It is time to set something straight. You have problems getting your plane to go straight down the runway? Stick around. I got something for you. Welcome everybody back to Just Plain Crazy. I'm Brendan. Thanks for joining me again here for another episode down in the lair. Do I have something cool for you guys from RC Castle? Do you struggle to get your plane down the runway on takeoffs? Is your runway pretty narrow? Is your runway pretty bumpy? Does your airplane need a ton of runway to get off the ground? Do you have an oversteer or weak nose gear and you need another option? I think I might have something for you guys, so let me show you what I got. What I have here was sent to me by RC Castle. This is an Asan, listed as a steering side slip gyro. What comes in the package when we open this thing up, we have a set of instructions, if you will, right? And we have this funky little gadget. So this is a steering gyro, or a side slip gyro, as it's otherwise referred to. This thing is about a 1/2 inch square all the way around. Has a little wire harness on it with some very well labeled connectors. Turning servo, turning in. That one is, so we have turning servo, turning input, gear input, and then we have gear out. This thing, as far as a weight goes, we can throw it right here on the scale that I always keep handy. And we can go, let's go to grams on this thing, because I doubt this thing weighs more than an ounce. 9 grams. So if you guys zoom down in there, 9 grams is what this thing weighs, so it doesn't weigh very much. What is the purpose of this thing, or why do I really want it? There are occasions where, depending on the field that you fly at or your own location, maybe a lot of you fly out of driveways, things like that, maybe you have issues keeping it straight down the runway, because once you get going fast in the thing, you start overcorrecting, you get off the edge of it, tears up planes, hits grass, bean fields, things like that, corn, whatever, and destroys airplanes. So something like this, if this would keep your plane tracking on a nice level surface, would be well worth, you know, the price of admission. This thing on rc-castle.com's website, RC Castle's website, retails for $19.99. So the things aren't very expensive. They sent me this product and asked me to do a review on it. So I want to do an honest review for you guys. I was never really big into this thought. I do have planes that, you know, get a little zigzaggy down the runway, but our runway is pretty wide at most of the fields I fly at, so it's not a big deal. This, though, the more I thought about it, has or presents an opportunity here to really true up some airplanes. Now, this thing is a nose gear only gyro, and it's listed that way. So the first thing I thought was, well, what if I turn it sideways, backwards, and mount it? Would it work for a tail dragger? It's very much designed as a nose gear only plane. So if you're a tail dragger, sorry guys, you're out on this one. But I'm sure that if this grows in popularity, maybe that's something that they would explore down the road. This has an auto correction or calibration feature. I'll show you that at the end. But why don't we get into the install, and then I'm actually going to paint a line over at our field down the runway, and we're actually going to test this thing out. So reading the directions on this thing was pretty straightforward. It can be mounted in the airplane in any one of 6 directions. So what I mean by that, and I'm choosing my BAE Hawk, or as I like to call it, my Bay Hawk, my baby. I'd like to take this thing and mount it in there, and I want to experiment with this plane. This thing can be mounted in 6 directions. So the sticker on the front has to be on what I'm going to call the top or the front, because it has an LED right there. So I want to be able to see that, to see what it's doing. So this thing can be mounted this way or this way. And in turn, though, this thing has to stay, if you will, parallel to the bottom of the plane. But you can also mount it this way, or turn it this way. It doesn't matter. So whatever momentum switch or inertia switch they use in there will work in any of those configurations, and you can mount it this way as well. The directions do not specify that it has to go up here in the front of the plane. One of the reasons I chose this as a good candidate, the wires from this Hawk run up and underneath this nose gear plate, but both connections are literally right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this thing to the test and see what happens if I mount this gyro for the nose literally right there to keep all my connections pretty clean. And I'm trying to get my finger out of the way there for you guys. So short story, we want to put that there. You can see the harness isn't super long, so it wouldn't make much sense to me initially to mount it here and then to pull all this wire and bundle all the wire up here, then need to run extensions all the way back over to there. So my initial, even though the directions don't say it, I don't think there's going to be much advantage mounting here or there in the back. I think it would probably show up sooner here, but let's put the product to the test and really see what it does. I'm going to mount it here, and if need be, when I go to the field, I'm going to bring some extensions and I'll rough them in and I'll remount it in the nose. But I'm literally going to try this thing out and put it to the paces, mounted right back there. So the direction should be pretty clear. I'm going to go ahead and do a time lapse. We're going to pull those connectors off. We're going to plug those in accordingly. And then we're just going to simply Velcro this baby down. This ultimately can be a 2-minute install in this plane, maybe a little longer in some others, depends how your plane is set up. And then we're going to catch you guys over at the field. Let's get into that time lapse. Very quick install, guys. Just a couple of quick minutes there for the initial position, and we're going to test that out. So let me show you what this looks like. All we simply did is we Velcroed this. Has to be parallel to the floor of the airplane, so that works. All my connections have safety locks on them. All right, they're just sitting in there for right now, just so I have ease of access if I decide to change this to the front position as we discussed. And it's just simply Velcroed right down there at the bottom. So the instructions now want you to actually check the steering of the plane to make sure that everything works in the right direction. So we have our radio is on and set up. Let's simply go ahead and plug this thing in. We'll let it boot up. Let it initialize. And it said the light will go from blinking fast to blinking slow.
Gear up.
We got our landing gear here. That's now down. Once it says it goes to blinking slow, you want to go ahead and verify. So we will go to the left with the steering, there and there. Okay, so we have no steering with this, and that's fine. It says here in the instruction manual, very clearly at the bottom, that if the gear does not steer the way it's supposed to, it shuts off the steering when the gear is up. So then we have to go through the auto configure, which isn't a big deal, down here on the back side of the instructions. So let's cover how to do the auto configure. All right, guys, now it's time to do the auto configuration on this plane, so let's check that out. It says they want the landing gear down, which it is. The plane is horizontal. From within 1 minute of powering it up, we're going to cycle this at least 5 times or more quickly, each side, and then ending holding in the left position until the flash stops in the gyro. So let's go ahead and get this thing powered up. You'll see we go from a very quick flash there within a minute. So let's go ahead and do this. says 5 or more times, so we'll do it a bunch. And then we're gonna hold there. And we saw a bunch of quick blink lights, and then the thing went out. Now we're to there. So we're gonna return it, and we're gonna go down here. And now we have left, and we have right steering. So I think we are auto-configured, we're calibrated, and we're ready to get to the field, and let's test this thing out and see how it does. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and just taxi this thing around so you can see that this Asan side slip gyro, steering gyro, works for taxiing without any issues. Now what I did with this is I actually offset the nose gear just a little bit to make it want to pull to the left. And I want to really test this gyro to see if it keeps it on this heading. And if my camera guy just kind of pans over to the field, what we're doing here is we've painted a line so we can reference. Now, I use the string, strung out a Mason line there, and I use the eyeballometer to kind of eye it up center of the runway. So if you've ever wondered what on a Hawk that little tube is that sticks off the front, that's your pointer to keep up here with your paint mark. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so we're gonna eyeball this up, and I'm basically going to give it throttle. And what I'm going to do is go full bore, and I'm going to take my hands off the sticks, and I'm going to see what happens, and my camera guy is going to follow it. So we are down on low rates, timer's cleared. I'm going to just steer it into the red line as we accelerate, and up we go. So in 3, 2, 1. And that thing, guys, was dead to nuts on that line. That is amazing. I cannot believe how that works. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna bring this thing around, and I'm gonna land it, and we'll do one more test.
Landing flat.
You can see that we still have rudder control.
3 minutes.
Bringing it in. So I think that thing is pretty impressive. I did not have a whole lot of interest in this product. That is just outstanding. That is amazing that that thing can track like that and keep it there. That was full throttle with a twisted nose gear, hands off. And as you can see, I can taxi this thing back, no issues. And if you look at the grass, guys, the grass is bumpy. Like it's not super smooth, and that's what I wanted to see. Will this thing hold up to the jarring? All right, guys, we are going to go with attempt number 2. I'll bring this thing around to the line, and what I'm doing this time is I'm going to leave this thing on high rate for takeoff, and we will see how this thing responds. We'll see how this thing responds to a takeoff in high rates. So we'll get it started and take her up. So going up in 3, 2, 1. Hands off the sticks. That was pretty decent. It's not absolute perfect, but that's pretty impressive. I mean, that it's only letting you vary 6 to 8 inches to the side. And that's over about 200, I would say that's roughly 200 feet that I have taped off there. We will bring her in.
Time remaining 3 minutes.
And again, I still have full rudder control, no issues. And we will bring it back. So for the Asan side slip nose gyro, this thing's amazing. And it, you know, if you're worried if you got one of those planes, EDFs, trainers, anything with a nose wheel, especially one that retracts, if you're worried about that thing turning left and right in there, this side slip gyro will actually shut that nose wheel off while it's retracted up in the unit, so it's not going side to side. So Hey, for 19 bucks from www.rc-castle.com, guys, what an amazing product. I can't believe that this thing works that well. All right, so we'll hit you in the wrap-up. All right, guys, there you have it. So there is the review of the Asan nose side slip steering gyro. Overall thoughts for the $19 from RC Castle, I don't think you can beat this. And for me, I wasn't really looking for anything like this, but the simplicity of the install literally took 2 minutes. The quality of the way that this thing worked, even with the positioning almost center of the plane, I didn't need to try and move it up to the nose because it worked really well right there. Super easy install. Again, you can mount it in various positions. The auto configuration portion worked absolutely phenomenal in this thing. Super easy to do. The instructions pretty clear to follow. I recommend you pick one of these up if you have yourself a really bumpy runway. Like you can see, this stuff is pretty bumpy. It really helped to keep it on grass on track. You have something narrow, maybe you just have trouble steering the thing because of perception issues, but literally over 200 feet, it didn't vary more than a couple inches off to the side. So great quality product. I really recommend this thing in a very honest review. As I said, I wasn't up for one prior, but now after experimenting with it, I really liked it. So I hope you guys pick yourself up one too if you find that it would be of value. Otherwise, it's Brendan here from Just Plain Crazy. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, like it. If you don't like it, hit the unlike button twice, subscribe, and don't forget to share. And if you do subscribe, hit that comment or the bell notification and select all so you get all of my content. But for now, I appreciate you joining me. Peace out and happy flights.